Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, c'est lundi le 16 May. For this week, we are getting to the end here. Really, the only things next week that you'll have to do are to submit your quarter four quick write portfolios, and then also to do your exam review and then take the exam. So this is your last week of doing kind of the typical stuff that we have. So aujourd'hui, il y a une discussion. I'll get to that in a second. Traduction, je suis jalouse, la deuxième partie. Flipgrid, and then we have our last personne spéciale. So that'll happen mercredi. On Wednesday, we'll have a quiz on that person. Jeudi, Thursday. And then finally, the last thing is to make sure that you have those quick writes ready. I plan to have the portfolio with the reflection document. I plan to have that assignment up very early this week or maybe midweek, but as soon as possible. So you can start turning that in as soon as you're ready. It's due on Wednesday of next week, but you can certainly turn it in early, and I would appreciate that because that'll give me a chance to start on the grading. Okay. And if you want to do one last weekly check-in for me, that would be great. I would love to hear, just how you're feeling at the end of the year, any feedback, etc. Even if you don't usually do those weekly check-ins. Okay, aujourd'hui, il y a un nouveau mot de passe, and it's continuing with les prépositions. So we have, sur, sous, dans. You know what? I'm sorry. I meant to say this is the same one as last week. I apologize for the in-person class. I'm doing something different, but it's still with prepositions. But this is the same as last week. So sur, sous, dans, devant, derrière. Knowing those prepositions and having the hand motions hopefully is helpful. And then when you need those words for things like your quick write, you have them handy. Okay, but that should already be in your cahier. Ok, aujourd'hui c'est lundi le 16 mai en 1770. Marie-Antoinette a épousé le futur roi Louis XVI. Okay, épousé looks kind of like the word spouse en anglais. Et épouser, c'est marier. Elle s'est mariée avec Louis XVI. Louis the 16th. Le futur roi, the future king. At that point, he was not the king yet. Elle s'est mariée à l'âge de 14 ans. À l'âge de 14 ans. Wow. Très jeune. Pretty young, very young. Ils ont eu 4 enfants ensemble. Enfant looks like infant, but it actually means children. Louis XVI aimait les serrures et il avait une grande collection de serrures différentes. So that's kind of an interesting thing to collect, une grande collection de serrures. So a big lock collection. Intéressant. Les Français ont blâmé Marie-Antoinette pour la crise économique en France. So when Louis XVI came into power, France was in dire straits economically. There were a lot of people starving in the streets, just chaotic. And the king lived out at Versailles, which was about 15 kilometers from the city, which allowed for the king and the rest of the nobility to kind of turn a blind eye to all of the unrest and the difficulties going on with people who were living in Paris proper. So that meant that having these people, these noble people, living this lavish life outside of the city was infuriating to the people of Paris, France in general, but Paris in particular, because that's where a lot of the crisis was centered. So that's a little backstory. Ils ont blâmé Marie-Antoinette pour la crise économique, donc elle n'était pas très populaire avec le peuple. Not very popular. Voici une vidéo. This is going to talk a little about Marie-Antoinette. There are, some, like any historical figure, there are going to be some misconceptions, but also some truth to what we know about that person or what we think about that person. Marie Antoinette really just didn't know any different than her kind of lavish lifestyle, which doesn't really excuse anything, but it does kind of shed a different light. Whereas a lot of people think of her more as, oh, let them eat cake, didn't really care about the people who were in economic difficulty. So not necessarily true that she didn't care, but true that there was such a disparity there economically between the rich and the poor that it was hard for the poor not to hate her. Okay, voila, voila. Go ahead and answer those questions, which we talked about enough that I think that you probably should be fine to answer them. Also, just a little side note, Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, they were the reigning monarchs during the French Revolution. So after all this unrest, it became, it kind of came to a head in 1789 with the beginning of the French Revolution. Okay, bon. So we are going to look at some older vocabulaire. It's going to include the, caresse, voir, va vers, trouve. Also, les prépositions, these are the ones that we're not looking at for our mot de passe. Gauche, to the left, droite, to the right, en haut, above, en bas. And we're using that verb cherche. Donc la classe cherche. I'm going to turn around because I'm not sure if you can see me in the right direction for this. À gauche, to the left. À droite, to the right. En haut, en bas. Okay, et la classe touche. La tête, les épaules, les genoux. A couple of these are new. So you can go ahead and watch my video for the rest of this. An example of the rest of this. Okay, la traduction pour aujourd'hui, je suis jalouse partie 2, which you had a quiz on yesterday. If you didn't take the quiz yet, it is linked here. Also, if you still need to copy the Write and Discuss into your cahier, it is also here. And that is it for today. Au revoir tout le monde.